Christmas special, right? So it's going to be, I'm going to start a new series with my husband, Dan. Say hi, Dan.
Hi, Dan.
Okay. We don't know what we're going to call it yet, but it's just going to be a thing where we talk about various and sundry things from time to time, maybe like once a month or something. I don't know. But, you know, we were going to start out talking about A Christmas Carol by Charles Dickens and the history there. And then our son, who's not on camera because he prefers not to be, he said, hey, I have this idea for the top 10 most rewatched Christmas movies. So I have my list of Christmas movies, and he's going to tell me which movies are in the top 10 and which ones are not on the list at all. And if I miss a Christmas movie, maybe you can tell me down in the comments.
Yeah, let us know what's your favorite one that you have to watch every year. Every year. You cannot miss it. You have to watch it, or bad things happen in the new year. Now, but before we start this, I want to ask Zach, are these theatrical released movies? Are these made-for-TV specials? Are they just little short half-hour things? Or are these all feature-length movies that were released in theaters?
A mixture of both.
A mixture of both. Are there short specials? Are there, or are they all like movie length?
What do you define as a short special?
Like a half-hour special show that would be on TV.
Then I want to say yes.
Okay, so there's a mixture.
Yes.
So it's not just movies. It's Christmas televised movies or.
But not necessarily like a Doctor Who Christmas special type of thing.
Okay.
Okay. All right.
Okay. All right. So my list, I got Home Alone.
Yeah, that's number one.
That's the number one most rewatched.
Yeah, because nothing says Merry Christmas like let's watch two guys get brutally hurt by some 8-year-old child. Merry Christmas.
Well, it takes place
You
during
filthy
Christmas.
animal.
It takes place during Christmas, and it reemphasizes the importance of family.
So is it just the very first Home Alone, or is it the whole franchise, or does your list not say?
It just states it as the first one.
Okay. And then next on my list of Christmas movies, I've got Trading Places.
No.
Not on the list? Man.
Even though that takes place during Christmas time, and I always like to watch it during Christmas,
Right.
what Christmas family Christian values does it espouse?
No, none.
Greed and revenge.
Yeah, those aren't really Christmas values.
Oh, and as far as I understand it, it was the Dukes.
It was the Dukes. It was the Dukes. Anyway, Miracle on 34th Street.
Number 9.
I've never seen it. Have you seen it? Let me know.
I've seen it.
How the Grinch Stole Christmas. And I'm thinking of the animated one, not the Jim Carrey one.
None of those are on there.
Really?
That is kind of shocking to me. A Christmas Carol?
No.
A Christmas Carol.
Well,
Charles Dickens classic.
Wow.
I mean, it'd be kind of hard to narrow that one down because there's so many.
Okay. All right.
This
okay.
is true.
Gremlins. Again, no family values in it.
No.
No Gremlins.
But don't think
There was
midnight.
the giving and the charity, as he basically stole the Mogwai and gave it to his son.
That is true. Okay. A Charlie Brown Christmas.
Number 3.
Number 3.
Okay.
All right.
Okay. Die Hard.
Number 10.
Die Hard. Yes.
And don't forget to leave a mess of stuff in your vents for
Yeah, cigarettes,
McClane.
Beretta 92.
and shoes.
And shoes. That man needs shoes.
Also,
needs shoes.
Yippee-ki-yay.
He needs some shoes. And, leave
Yeah.
him a little note. Yippee-ki-yay. Or, now I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Okay.
But that also, he's there to spend Christmas with his family.
He is.
He is. And at the end, he's there with his family, having killed a whole bunch of people.
Yeah, if you're not catching the theme, then I don't know.
And, having thrown Professor Snape off a high-rise tower.
Okay, anyway. It's a Wonderful Life.
No.
It's a Wonderful
Oh, no,
Life.
sorry, that's 7.
I was like, how is that not on the list?
Oh.
I mean, I've only ever seen it once, but it's like, come on. You know, every time a bell rings, an angel gets its wings. All right. Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
4.
Okay.
Okay.
Frosty the Snowman.
Nope.
Okay. Elf.
Number 5.
Really? I think Will Ferrell is really funny, but that movie just annoyed me.
I've seen the movie. I don't get the appeal of it,
Same.
but it does do the same thing as what the majority of what we've already established is on the list. Family values, spending time with your family.
Okay.
I mean, I could see that, but it just him in that role and it just
I guess it was supposed to go to somebody else.
Oh. Okay, so The Santa Claus.
Number 8.
that one was a fun movie. I watched that with my kids when it came out with my 2 boys, and it was just really fun to watch that with them.
Didn't we see the 3rd one in theaters with the church group?
Probably. You would have been like little.
No,
I-
because it came out in like 04, 08, something like that, where we were back here. Not 08, sorry. Probably like 06.
Was it really that long ago?
2000.
Yeah.
Dude, you're making me feel ancient.
That makes me feel ancient.
Okay, I took him to see Shrek in the theaters when he was like 3.
Okay, so that's not.
Not a Christmas movie.
Not a Christmas movie, just throwing it out there. Okay, Scrooged.
No. I don't think anybody.
Well, that's a Christmas Carol based
I know.
one, though.
Okay, Lethal Weapon.
No.
How could you not?
There are family values because he is. If Die Hard is on the list and he is with his family, Lethal Weapon should be on the list, especially the first one, because there was a Christmas party, there was a Christmas tree. They said ho ho ho.
There was
All of it.
There was also family stuff. Mel Gibson's character being accepted into Danny Glover's family, basically as family, not even just extended family, like
As family.
sibling.
Yeah.
You're missing number 2 and number 6.
So I have Christmas Vacation
Number 6.
and A Christmas Story.
Number 2.
So you nailed them. Some of them.
Some of them. But I remembered A Christmas Story later because I saw something about Ralphie and he was in another movie and I was like, oh, Christmas Story. I had to add it to my list because I forgot. How do you forget to add that to your list?
It's right there in the title.
You'll shoot your eye out.
Christmas story.
A Christmas Carol.
A Christmas Carol. It's right there in the title. How could you not have some version of that?
I'm surprised that the cult classic A Nightmare Before Christmas isn't in this.
He's got a point.
I've never
Or do
seen
people?
that.
I haven't seen it either.
People,
but
I think,
do
really
people
look at that more
watch
like Halloween
Do they
kind
watch
of
that
thing.
at Halloween instead? I'm wondering.
Do we see a lot of Jack Skellington Christmas decorations?
But, well, there's that house not far from us.
Well, that's where they
all-
took the Home Depot 12-foot skeleton and...
Well, and they have a whole bunch of other stuff out there, and it's all Christmas decorations. It's all Nightmare Before Christmas.
From the consensus that I get from people that I've watched on YouTube, they all watch it around Christmas, not Halloween.
Interesting.
Because it starts at Halloween, but the whole movie is that build up to Christmas.
To Christmas.
Okay, so
Interesting.
So, what is your favorite Christmas movie that you love to watch every year?
Home Alone. Because again, nothing says Merry Christmas like beating up a whole bunch of
Leaving
robbers.
your child behind and then having to get back to him, and he's an evil genius.
Who'd win in a fight, Kevin McAllister or Batman?
Batman.
I don't know. How much time does
how
Kevin
much prep
McAllister have to prep?
Batman doesn't need prep time. He
That's
is
why I said-
vengeance. He is the night.
Yeah,
Oh
but
my
that's why I said
God.
Kevin.
So for me, it's Charlie Brown Christmas, and it's the messaging. It's the Christmas Story is all right in there. I love it. I have to watch it every single year.
Well, they sit there, and it's in the 60s, and they're talking about the over-commercialization of Christmas and forgetting what the purpose of the holiday was. And then we've got Linus with his soliloquy straight from the Bible that Charles Schultz demanded be part of this before he signed off on it. It's beautiful.
Well, and it's like, for me, it's like one of those reminiscent things I like to watch it because, like you said, they sitting over there going, oh, the over-commercialization of Christmas. And so when I had him, and he's little, you know, before you came along, I didn't do Santa Claus.
No, I understand.
I was like, no, that's not Christmas. And it was, you know, he's 2 years old. We're driving around. We're looking at Christmas lights. I think we, you know, did a whole bunch of different stuff. And I was watching it then through his eyes. And so it was the first time that I had actually enjoyed the holiday in a very long time because it's so over commercialized. You know, to think of that Straight No Chaser song. Christmas time is here, and Christmas songs we love to hear.
Oh,
you know,
Christmas Can-Can?
Christmas Can-Can. And they're talking about, you know, heard this same song 20 times, and it's only Halloween. And this is like, because...
Yeah, and that's one of the frustrating things is to go into some retail outlet and see in October...
Christmas.
Of course, it's not only October anymore. Now it's starting in September.
I know, you start to see September. It's a little frustrating, and then it's over.
You get 1 month. One!
Right? It's like, and it tramples all over Halloween. Or, you know, it tramples over Halloween. It's starting to trample over Halloween a little bit more now. But it's always trampled over Thanksgiving. It
overshadows Thanksgiving.
And it's just like, then Thanksgiving, and I've talked about this, it's my favorite holiday.
Let's not be thankful for what we already have before we go into gimme.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So...
And my favorite is A Christmas Carol, and it's the version where Patrick Stewart is playing Ebenezer Scrooge. And I love the story. I've read the book quite a few times, an embarrassingly large number of times. But I really enjoy the way they did that. I really enjoy the way that Patrick Stewart portrayed that character.
When are we watching it?
We'll make some time this weekend to watch it. I told you, we'll watch it this weekend. Like, we can watch it like Friday night or Saturday. We like make Friday night. You know, we watch Rudolph, Charlie Brown, and then we can finish up with Christmas Carol.
I think that sounds like a
great
time.
idea.
That's a great idea. And this will be a good segue into
to our
talking
next topic.
Our next topic. Okay, so like I said at the beginning, my husband and I are going to start doing a thing probably like once a month. We don't know what we're going to name it. We're just going to talk about random things, maybe do some reactions. I don't know. We haven't fully decided yet.
No, not yet.
Not yet. But he picked the topic for this video, which is based on his favorite novel, which we already talked about, A Christmas Carol. And so why did you choose this topic?
Well, like I said, it's a story I enjoy every year, and I'll read it. I'll watch
the Patrick Stewart
version of it. But it's a great story about more the spirit of the holiday, and then also, you know, this guy's just this miserable, horrible person, just a rotten person. He's just even wants to live in a way to make himself miserable and makes everyone around him miserable. And just a story about, you know, nobody is irredeemable.
This is true. It is a good story about redemption, for sure. Yeah. But, you know, it's let's do some history on the novel, because I like history. If you've been watching my channel, I can't talk about anything without throwing some history in. So...
Nerd.
I'm proud of it.
History nerd.
History nerd. So Dickens was actually the second of 8 children, and he was born February 7th, 1812 in Lamport, Portsmouth, UK. He was a middle-class family. His father, John, was a clerk, right, at the Navy Pay Office, but he ended up getting sent to a debtor's prison because he had too much debt. I'm so glad we don't do debtor's prisons anymore.
Give people an opportunity before you cast them away forever.
Right? That's so crazy to me. So, but Dickens was 12 when his father John was sent to the debtor's prison, and there was the option for the family to go with them. So his mother and his siblings went, and he stayed with a family friend. And then he needed money, so he ended up pawning off a book collection that he had. Then he dropped out of school and he started working in a shoe polish factory, earning 6 shillings a week. I don't know what that would be today. I'll figure it out and put it in the video. But he would work 10-hour days pasting labels on all the pots of the polish for 6 shillings. It sounds miserable. So
Thinking back to the debtor's prison, at least they had something in place to not split up families, even though you and your whole family go to prison.
Because you can't pay your bills. Can you imagine? Sounds awful.
What, being in prison?
Because you can't pay your debts.
No, because I don't have that problem.
So, but I guess the factory had some pretty harsh working conditions that would leave a lasting effect on Dickens.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
Right? And so this is what influenced a lot of his writings going forward. And his father was released from the debtor's prison when his mother died, who left money then to John. And John would use that money to pay off his debts. And then the family, would leave and go move in with this family friend where Charles was staying. And his father wanted Charles to quit working and go back to school. But his mom was like, no. Thanks, Mom. That's awesome. So he would spend another 3 years at the factory before he went to school. So he starts working when he's 12. So he's 15 when he finally gets to go back to school, because his mom was like, "No, you gotta
support the
continue to
family.
work.
You gotta keep supporting the family. We can't do this again."
Right?
I mean, makes sense.
Sure. Dad's out of prison. He can get a job, but no, absolutely not.
Well, I'm sure Dad did get a job, but I think it helps when you have a couple incomes.
Dog's rolling around in her crate.
She's a good girl, but she's also kind of bored right now.
Right. So he would start working in a writing career as a journalist. He edited a weekly journal for 20 years while also writing his own little short stories, lecturing, performing, stuff like that. And he campaigned really, really heavily for children's rights, because children worked at the time. They didn't have labor laws.
Right.
Kids were going to work. He wrote A Christmas Carol in 6 weeks' time. The whole entire story he wrote in 6 weeks after reading a report on child labor. And so he was initially, was just going to be this pamphlet, because he read interviews given to a friend of his that interviewed a bunch of children working in these harsh conditions. And among them were stories of young girls who would sew dresses for the growing middle-class consumer. These young girls worked 16 hours a day, 6 days a week. They lived above the factory floor in a shared rooming situation. And he read stories of 8-year-old children dragging coal carts through small subterranean passages in a standard, at that time, 11-hour workday.
Oh my God.
Apparently these were stories of the time for poor, because the poor people would send their kids to go to work to help support the families. Right. And so they would earn very little money. They were working in extremely harsh conditions, long hours a day. And Dickens kind of related it to his own story.
Yeah.
Wait, was this Victorian London?
Yeah.
Yeah, it would have been, because he was born in
the
1812.
19th century.
Yeah.
So he's...
Oh yeah, no, then those were by far the worst
Oh,
of
yeah.
the worst times for when you were a child.
Oh my gosh. I just can't imagine sending your 8-year-old to go work in the coal mines.
Hey, Zach, go push a coal cart. All right, Father. Tally-ho.
I will see you on the morrow.
If tomorrow was tomorrow, hopefully. Oh, never mind. I'll see you guys next week.
I'll see you guys when I'm too big to crawl through the coal mine.
And then they'll send me somewhere else. If I survive.
And then it's off to the coal factory.
If you survive.
Yeah. Then it's off to the shoe polish factory. Oh my gosh. How horrible.
That was the whole basis. And so it was in 1843 when all these stories were coming out about all of these like harsh conditions, and that's, you know, children were viewed as tools and a commodity. It was measured by how many nails they could hammer in an hour.
Wow.
The poor would take what work they could find, and the lowest paid were obviously children.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's through this that A Christmas Carol was born, was how the poor were treated. And so Dickinson visited Manchester, word I can't pronounce. Gonna put it up here.
Athenaeum?
Sure. It was a quasi-philanthropic organization to help the working poor.
Okay.
It was a population that was largely uneducated, powerless, and exploited by factory owners while being ignored by everyone else.
Right.
Right? So his visit was to try to help get money, to raise money for this organization. But then this was also what prompted him to confront the issues of the time that were happening and why he wrote A Christmas Carol. And so Scrooge would be the representation of greed and the loneliness of an isolated man from the rest of humanity, which, yeah.
Yeah.
And any variation, including Scrooged, is that.
It's that same thing with the Bill Murray character having this great success, but nobody to share it with, nobody that he wants to share it with.
And they're angry and they're lonely.
Yeah.
So, Martha Cratchit, from the story, the young daughter of Bob Cratchit, lived above a clothing factory and was lucky to see her family at Christmas time. And this would be a representation of the child laborers that Dickinson had read about and become familiar with. Tiny Tim, the youngest son, was crippled and carried on his father's shoulders, and this was supposed to be a representation of the father carrying the family at that time. Bob Cratchit was the representation of everything that was good and hopeful in the world, who, despite all efforts to support his family, and especially Tim, would never advance his position in life. It wasn't going to happen, which is sad. Scrooge's nephew represented the reminder that not everyone of wealth in life was like Scrooge, because he had a wife, he had friends, and he had a community that loved him.
And he also showed generosity and charity, which were things that were completely foreign to Ebenezer Scrooge.
The ghost of Christmas past represented memory. The ghost of Christmas present represented generosity, empathy, and the Christmas spirit. And the ghost of Christmas yet to come represented the fear of death and moral reckoning, which makes absolute sense.
Because he has to go through all these steps.
For the redemption. And so, did you know, Dan, this is your favorite.
It is.
A Christmas Carol was one of several Christmas-themed stories Dickens wrote. The full title is A Christmas Carol in Prose, being a ghost story of Christmas.
Yes, I knew that.
You knew that. The story was written in 6 weeks, but was written under financial pressure.
Well,
Apparently,
I knew that one.
Did you?
Yeah.
Dickens wrote the story taking long nighttime walks around London.
Yes.
Okay. The novel was first published December 19th, 1843, and the first edition sold out by Christmas Eve. It went through 13 printings by 1844 and is still a bestseller.
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, my stomach's making noise.
Did you know about the aliens?
And elephants with strings?
Rope.
Rope.
No,
That's a callback to something we've never discussed with you, and I wish he would never discuss again.
I was talking about aliens.
I don't think there were any aliens. So Dickens did not make much money from the earlier editions. It was a bestseller from the onset, but he was picky about the papers and how the book was to be bound. And so because of the price of the materials, it really ate into his profits because he was super picky. He wanted a specific paper. He wanted it bound a specific way. I thought that was interesting. It was written as a work of social commentary. Dickens's lifelong devotion to helping the underserved was due to his own familial experience because, you know, like we said, his father went to a debtor's prison. He had to work in a factory. And according to biographer Michael Slater, the author thought the novella was a way to, quote, help open the hearts of the prosperous and powerful toward the poor and powerless, which I thought was really, really kind of cool. And I can see why you wanted me to look this up because, you know, the history is kind of...
There's some really interesting stuff behind the creation of this story.
So Dickens would keep the 66-page, heavily revised, handwritten manuscript bound in crimson leather. He had it bound in crimson leather, decorated in gilt, and then he gave it to a friend of his, Thomas Mitton. That original manuscript is now at the Morgan Library Museum.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's kind of cool that it still exists. There have been more than 100 versions of A Christmas Carol, including a video game, a 1908 short, and the 2015 TV movie A Christmas Carol and Zombies.
I never heard of that one.
I thought that was funny. More than...
I don't know that I would actually want to see that. That sounds terrible.
That sounds terrible.
Really odd.
But more than 20 television shows have used the story episodes. Use the story in episodes. That includes Sanford and Son, The $6 Million Man,
$6 million man.
Family Ties,
Okay.
Sweet Life on Deck, The Jetsons, and DuckTales.
DuckTales. Well, Scrooge McDuck. I mean, that's kind of a
Yeah,
gimme.
right there, right?
It's low-hanging fruit.
Huh?
It's just low-hanging fruit.
Very low-hanging fruit. So there have been 2 ballets and 4 opera versions of the story, including The Passion of Scrooge, which is a chamber opera for 1 baritone and a chamber orchestra. A Christmas Carol was well received among peers of Dickens, except for Mark Twain. Mark Twain, apparently not a fan.
Mark Twain.
And after Dickens read A Christmas Carol to American audiences, Twain would review the reading and saying, "There is no heart, no feeling. It is nothing but glittering frostwork." And I'm like, seriously, Mark? Come on. I thought there was a lot of feeling and a lot of passion and a lot of heart in that story.
I'm sensing some MBS vibes coming from Mark.
Kind of sounds like it.
Maybe he's upset.
Even though
that
he
didn't read
generated his own wonderful works of classic literature.
it. Right?
Well, could you imagine being so envious of another dude's writing, even though you're already better in some ways?
You're already successful in your own right.
You're gonna try to poop on this dude.
And you're like, well, I must look better. So, no, it sucked. But in the end, Dickens' hope for his story was that his London neighbors would pay attention to those who were less fortunate, and the themes of A Christmas Carol would come around all year, not just at Christmas time.
Christmas.
Act before it's too late. You know, it's like we only have but a moment on this giant rock floating through space. How are we treating other people?
Yeah, how are you going to be remembered?
Mm-hmm.
What are you doing for someone else besides yourself?
Mm-hmm. Well, and I think it was a song by Garth Brooks, and I can't think of the name of the song, But, he's talking about, there's 2 dates in time that'll be on your stone. And everyone knows what they mean, but what really matters is that little dash in between.
Right.
And I know I'm paraphrasing what the chorus of the song is because I'm not trying to get in trouble and get copyrighted and whatever, but it's, what is your dash? And, it could be the same, you can say the same thing about A Christmas Carol. What is your dash saying about you?
Yeah, he talks about his deceased partner, but only talks about his efforts and his work as a businessman, but nothing about what he was as a person.
Right. Because who was Scrooge and
Marley.
Marley, yeah. And that's sad. It's like, oh, well, Marley was this and Marley was that, but nothing that tells me who Marley was.
Yeah. He was just a wiped out name on the Scrooge and Marley, or Marley and Scrooge sign on their storefront.
Wasn't that sad?
Terribly.
Man. Got anything else to add, Zachary? No. But hey, that's it. That's the episode. That's all we were going to talk about. I know I stared at my notes a lot, but I had a lot of notes and I wanted to remember what I wanted to say.
And in this format, we couldn't use the teleprompter.
This is true. Anyway, but that's this episode. And whatever holiday you celebrate, may it be a great one. And we will see you next year.